All right, good morning. I just this morning flew in from Brazil, and boy, are my arms tired. Okay. So, having planned on this, what we're going to do is this morning is that we're going to hear from all of our ministers. And what are you talking about? Oh, that's right. Thy will be done. That's right. Thy will be done is the topic this morning. So we're going to hear from all a little bit, and then I'm going to pray us in, up, out, together, onward, upward, and greater glory. And that's how this is going to go this morning. So if this is your first time, you get to meet our entire ministerial staff. Yeah, wonderful. So we're going to start with Reverend Les DeMarco. So let's.
So, I believe anyone that's ever come to church has asked themselves at least once, what is God's will for my life? But what I believe is a more important question for us to ask ourselves this morning is what am I believing is God's will for my life? And where do I believe that my will needs to be surrendered for God's will to be activated or utilized in my life? The science of mind says that the divine will is that there's a law that responds to our thoughts and shows up as the actions we express in the world. And so what's happening in the world is what's happening in my mind. So is this God's will for my life, or is this my will? See, God's will responds to the mental purpose that we give it. So what do I believe my purpose is? And is that purpose aligned with what I'm believing is God's will for my life? And we can tell by how we feel inside, can't we? See, the measuring stick is that does what I'm feeling give me greater life, greater harmony, greater peace? Because if I'm unhappy, if I'm unsatisfied, if I'm feeling disempowered, if I'm bored or unexcited, what am I saying about the will of God within me? See, the truth for God's will for us in our lives is that nothing in God's will causes harm or pain or discord. Ernest says it this way, that God's will is anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, and greater power, so long as it doesn't harm anyone. So things happen because Spirit wills them to be. And I believe that we could totally misunderstand that if our whole objective to understanding the will of God wasn't to uncover what it is we fear most about God and about life. So we want to resolve that fear, whatever that fear might be, especially since God is the truth of our being. I mean, don't we want to be believing that God is the truth of our being rather than fearing that the will of God for us might not be good? You see, it's morbid to believe that God wills pain or suffering and disease. So if it's not God's will for us to experience those things in our lives, well, whose will is it? In the science of mind, we teach that the will of God must always be good. And sometimes it's just hard to see the good in everything. So we could be asking ourselves, what in this that I'm experiencing right now in my life, what in this am I not willing to see as good? See, because for our lives to improve, we want to be moving from my will to thy will. In the 12-step programs, we say, thy will be done, not my will. In other words, moving from those conditions of the world around us to the greater truth of the infinite nature of Spirit within us. So my will is that limiting aspect of my thinking that keeps me suffering, keeps me needing more, never satisfied, never fulfilled. But maybe, just maybe, that's what I'm believing is the will of God for my life.